A very good morning to one and all present here. Today, Kajal Chauhan, on behalf of Lloyd Business School, welcomes you all to the MDP session for 2020 academic year. We have Dr. Bhupender Kumar Som, who will be taking us through the first MDP. Dr. Som is a PhD in stochastic queuing systems from the Department of Statistics and Operational Research, Kurukshetra University. He possesses over 15 years of experience in teaching and research, and his areas of expertise lie in stochastic queuing systems. He's also credited with many talks on national and international conferences organized by institutions of international repute on the same topics as mentioned above. These institutions include IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Shillong, IIM Indore, Tsukuba University of Japan, MTMI Thailand. He has also won many awards and accolades for the talks delivered. Dr. Som sits on the editorial board of journals of international repute, such as Journals of Business Theory and Practice, Los Angeles, USA, and has many published works in various journals and high indexing such as Springer, Elsevier, Taylor and Francis, Scopus, SCI, etc., with many major citations and downloads. He has been in the consulting industry and has completed many industry research projects, also conducting FDPs and MDPs on business research methods and data analysis. I hereby welcome Dr. Som to take over the platform and start with the MDP for today. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you very much, Kajal. I hope I am audible clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks a lot. So today's session is completely dedicated towards statistics versus decision making and efficient decision making and statistics. So this is exactly whole session is about, and how the entire session is planned for today, that I'm going to explain right in the beginning. The session is planned something like this. There will be a session for 2 hours right now, and this particular session is going to include certain topics which are going to set the course for statistical based decision making. And then there'll be an hour of gap. That means from 12 to 1 there will be a break. Then we'll be taking a session from 1 to 2, and that's how this whole MDP is planned. So I'm going to take you through certain topics which exactly are planned for this entire session. I'll be starting with first telling you the differentiation between statistical and non-statistical based decision making. That means how statistical and non-statistical based business decision making takes place. And I'll be talking about that how statistical decision making is having a little edge over the non-statistical based decision making. Then I'll be moving into the requirements for statistical decision making. That means because for statistical decision making, the essential thing is that you collect the data. So I'll be talking a little bit about the data, that how to collect the data, and with respect to what kind of business research problems. Then I'll be moving ahead and we'll be talking a little about technicalities of scaling of data. And I'll be talking of one of the major instruments of data collection in recent and contemporary times, that is questionnaire design. And right after questionnaire design, I'll be talking a little about scales of data measurement also. All these things are essential because they work as a raw material for statistical decision making. That means data is the raw material for statistical decision making. So it is pretty important to understand that the science behind data, it is very important to understand. Once I finish doing that, I'll be floating you a questionnaire, and that questionnaire link I'll be pasting in the window, of course. And I would request all the participants to fill that particular questionnaire and send it back in that particular break hour. Once I receive that particular questionnaire, then in the last hour, we'll be doing a little decision making on the basis of that questionnaire. That's how the entire session is planned for today. So we'll be starting from with the concept. We'll be understanding the concept. We'll be understanding the technicalities behind the concept. And in the second session, on basis of that concept, we'll be developing a live problem, and that live problem, a small decision making can be covered. Though the topic is very huge, it requires probably, I don't know, means infinite time. When I say infinite time, it simply means more and more you keep moving into the statistics, the word is infinite. So it cannot be, kind of covered in a day of MDP, but it can definitely provide you a flavor. It can definitely provide you a platform from where you can have an idea that how this particular topic is going to affect your business decision making in a very efficient manner, and probably you can go for the advanced stages of statistics in that particular case. So the whole idea of this MDP is to make you aware about that how important the statistics as a subject in decision making is these days. You can look into the job market also these days. There are a lot of requirement of mathematical analysts, statistical analysts. So this field is one of the fastest growing field in the analysis, and this is exactly the idea behind this MDP. So that the decision making, let it be a small enterprise, let it be a big enterprise, the decision making can be more efficient. The decision making can be more data driven. The decision making can be more, I would say it is optimum. It is less prone to the risk. So the idea behind this MDP is to make you understand that how important for any entrepreneur, for any manager, for any I would say the business house, how important it is to make decision on the basis of science nowadays, the science of management rather. So once you start studying the management, so it's always said that management is an art as well as a science. So this particular MDP is completely designed about this latter part, that means the science of management, and how the scientific methods in management enables a manager to be a, I would say, a very efficient and good manager, and how the data driven approach can actually make a manager making the decisions which are highly applicable, highly feasible, right? So there is no subjectivity in these methods. Some, yes, there is a probability when you apply statistics, but probability is measurable, subjectivity is not measurable. So we always when we do statistical decision making, the whole concept of decision making moves from subjectivity to probability, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'll try to keep my talk as much as I would say non-mathematical as I can. I'll try to intervene the computers as much as I can. And the logic is pretty simple, because the people come from various backgrounds. Probably they do not have a very high exposure to mathematics, statistical or statistics or mathematics in their graduate courses or before that. So in that particular case, what we can do is I'm going to cover the topics in such a way that all others people coming or the participants from all the streams can actually understand the particular decision making art. So I'll try to cover the particular talk in this in this particular direction. So let me begin with it. So idea is to deliver you some technical decision making, and taking this particular journey through some non technical talk. So that's how it is going to be. So you'll get a flavor of it. So I'll be sharing my PPT, and let's begin with it. I hope the PPT is visible.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Is it visible, Claire?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's start with the thing. This is exactly the MDP is designed on efficient decision making and statistics. First, I need to understand what is an efficient decision making, and what is the difference between a statistical and non-statistical based decisions. So I'll be moving ahead. The first slide actually explains you what is the difference between statistical versus non-statistical decisions. So the list which is given, it actually talks about the benefits of statistical decisions, and you can definitely you can generate some antonyms against them, and you can understand what the non-statistical decision making is about. And right after this slide, I'll be probably putting up a case, and I'll try to make you understand that how statistical and non-statistical decision making is different from each other. So what benefits actually are there that are associated with the statistical decision making? So I'm going to use a term called data every now and then. Whenever I'm going to use the term data, you need to understand this data I'm trying to replace with the statistics, because statistics has everything to do with data. If there is no data, I'm extremely sorry, there is no statistics you can apply. And preferably that data is supposed to be numerical in nature, that means quantitative in nature. So when I'll come to the data, then I'll also tell you about that, what kind of different data you can get, how you can get it converted into quantitative data. So preferably I need to have a quantitative data, though in modern day, there are a lot of qualitative statistical techniques that are being developed under process, under observation, and they are still getting developed. And this is the contemporary era of statistics in which qualitative data can be straight away analyzed. Means you don't have to just convert it into numerical data. So I'll be talking about it when it comes to data, but it is actually statistical can be replaced with data. So it is could be data versus non-database decisions. That's how you can read it also, and it's absolutely fine. You can go with it because the backbone of statistics is data. And in non-statistical decision making, there is no requirement of data. You don't need a data. You just make decision on the basis of your own observation, probably on brainstorming. There's a lot of subjectivity, the people's opinion, they form their opinion on the basis of their observation, and actually the decisions are being made. So when I look into the data-driven decisions and non-data-driven decisions, I'll start comparing from point number one, where it says the database decisions are more efficient in nature. Now, efficiency can be measured in multiple dimensions. When I say it is more efficient, that means it is less probable to fail. It is, highly concrete. It has a very high-end, I would say, background behind it. It is backed by a lot of data. It is highly dynamic in nature. The moment the data changes, probably the decision starts amending itself. So the efficiency in terms of flexibility, efficiency in terms of reliability, efficiency in terms of confidence can be talked about when it comes to database decision making. Efficiency in terms of non-biasness also, because the database decisions are more or less non-biased, because data speaks its own language. It doesn't consider anybody's individual opinion. So that's how the data driven decisions are more efficient. And when it comes to the second point, the database decisions are likely to have higher sustainability, because whatever data you have, whatever decision on the basis of data you have made the decision on the basis of certain data which is coming from the past. That means on the basis of some background which is concretely generated. So I can talk about an example of stock price, or probably you want to perhaps predict that what is going to be the stock price tomorrow. So there are two ways you can do that. Probably I am the one who's trading from past 20 years in stock price. I don't analyze in any particular data, and perhaps I just say, okay, tomorrow the oil companies are going to go up, or probably the stock price of banking sector is going to go up, just depending my own observation, own experience. Now this involves a lot of biasness, a lot of manipulation in the decision making, the way I trade my money into the stock market. And there is an analyst who's going to collect the data probably from past 3 months, perhaps from past 6 months, probably from past 10 months. And there are a lot of predictive techniques that are applicable. You can see there are a lot of financial consulting firms, research firms who actually produce these kind of outcomes. Now, the decision made by an analyst or probably a research firm is highly sustainable. Why it is highly sustainable? Because it is backed up by some background of data which has been collected from the stock market. Probably if I look into the sustainability of the model which produced by analysts, that is much more higher in comparison to the subjective models that are produced by individual observation, and that is pretty much known. So one of the best models in finance, if you see Black-Scholes model of option pricing, that model is a data driven model. The patterns are observed from the data. On the basis of those particular patterns, a model has been developed, a theory has been developed, and it is pretty much applicable in the option market. There are a lot of softwares that got developed on that particular model. So they are highly sustainable. That means in long run, the decisions which are made on the basis of data, they are going to provide you a very long picture of the business decision making, rather than a very short term picture of the business decision making. They're likely to be optimum. That means when you are making a decision which is data based, it is highly optimum in nature. That means optimum is simply, you can understand it these particular decisions provide you maximum output with minimum of input. That means resource optimization is at the core of database decisions. So that is another part. So probably a person who is not making a decision on the basis of data might not be able to make a decision which is optimum in nature. And the simple thing behind is probably you miss a point or two every single time. And you can understand it if I look into the one of the best examples of optimum decision making in business. It comes in the production department, that how much raw material is to be consumed. The technique, the database technique which is applied is linear programming in every organization. If you So it reduces the wastage by a lot. It actually tells you that what is the optimum size of inventory need to be kept and all other things, depending on the what how much demand is there in the market. So optimization is also there at the core of database decisions. That the database decisions are much more systematic in nature. That means stepwise in nature. You can eliminate the redundant things. You can only involve the things which are essential, or probably the decision is sensitive to certain portions of the data. You can only involve those portions. You can eliminate some portions which are not sensitive to your decision making. So that facility is only available in data-based decision making. That means on a pen and paper, probably on your computer machine, you can keep on eliminating the things which are not impacting your data. So it saves a lot of fatigue. You don't have to run behind the data which is not even applicable. So the logic behind is very, very simple. That means you only try to work on the variables, or you only try to work on the problems which are impacting your decision making. You keep on discarding the things which are not impacting your decision making. So it saves you a lot of fatigue, definitely. Then database decision making is easy to assess. That simply means that once the decision has been made, that decision can always be assessed, that where in this particular decision, what are the different portions on which I need to make further corrections, or which can be implemented right away. It can also allow you to understand that which decisions are feasible, that means practically they are applicable, or which decisions are not feasible at all, they are just theoretical decisions. So that facility is also there with database decisions. When it comes to the next particular portion, database decisions can easily be compartmentalized. This simply means when you are going to make decision on the basis of some data, then you can break the data decision point further into different blocks, and it can be implemented systematically. That means step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So a decision can be compartmentalized because it is backed by the data. So every compartment has been supported by certain data. So I'll just go ahead once I'm going to do a questionnaire analysis, then I'll definitely let you know how this compartmentalization thing can work. The database decision provide a platform for future plans, because it is if I understand the entire concept, the database decision actually comes through a trend which is getting generated in the data. So that trend, if I'm able to capitalize on that particular trend by using some statistical techniques, then making predictions for future becomes very, very smooth, very concrete, and very easy. That means identifying the trend and making predicting something becomes very easy in comparison to the subjective decisions, where there is no pattern that has been observed. It is just the individual opinion or individual observation. So in that particular case, the vision is very, very short term. But in data driven models, the vision is very long term. It tells you that in which direction the overall decision is moving, and they are more precise. I don't think this particular last point requires a lot of discussion, because something which is coming from science, it has less subjectivity involved in it, and the decisions are much more precise, accurate, and actually addressing the right kind of problem. So if I look into this entire slide, the most important portion again is the data, 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 and data. So the first thing is, what is the fuel for this whole process? The fuel for this whole machinery, for this whole factory, the raw material for this whole factory of decision making, statistical decision making rather, or database decision making rather, the fuel is data. That means you need to feed the data, you need to process the data, and then you're going to get output which is in the form of a managerial decision. So it's a 3-step process. This, in step 1, you get the raw data from the relevant, I would say, the population, from the relevant sources. You get the data, step 1, you have the data, you make the data ready for analysis. Then in part two, you process the data. This is the kind of statistical decision making process in which it involves a lot of time, a lot of statistical knowledge is required. Once the data is processed, then you get certain number of outputs. When I say number of outputs, that means the data can give you a lot of alternatives. It's not necessary that every time the data is going to give you a single output, single kind of decision making point. No, it can generate you multiple decision points, and out of those alternatives, whatever best alternative a particular organization want to pick, they can pick it up depending on their need, the resources, the money, the plans, and whatever exactly the constraints are there. So that's what this whole process is about. Now, since we understood that data plays a vital role in statistical decision making, in fact, it is an essential component for statistical decision making. It is actually the platform on which the rest of the statistical decision making is going to get built. We need to have a clear understanding of the data. So there are certain exhibits from this particular slide, certain takeaways from this particular slide, which I'm going to summarize in some particular points. One thing is database decision. Point number one, the database decision making is highly preferred over non-statistical based decision making in contemporary times. The second exhibit is data is nowadays available in abundance. The trillions of TB of data is produced each day. You can Google it easily. You can find out that how much data is produced each day. Number three exhibit is that the backbone for statistical decision making or database decision making is collecting the right kind of data. The exhibit number 5 is if you want to move into statistical decision making ahead, you must have a clear understanding of data science. When I say data science, it simply means the art and science of collecting the data, art and science of designing the instruments of collecting the data, art and science of scaling the data. These three components you are supposed to be sure about. If you are not sure about the data, you're not sure about the quality of raw material which is going to get into the process of decision making, I am extremely sorry, it doesn't work out well. The process is very, very simple: garbage in, garbage out, gold in, gold out. So the first essential component is to focus on the raw material. That means to focus on the raw data. So you need to make sure that right data is collected. You need to make sure that right scaling or measurement of the data has been done. You need to make sure that right kind of instrument or method is used for data collection. So these are the 5 exhibits from this particular slide, which are essential components. You can note them down, so that you can move into the science of data decision making, database decision making. Any questions on this particular slide, or shall I move ahead, please? I'm ready to answer some questions.
Sir, please convince me database decisions are likely to have higher sustainability.
Okay. So higher sustainability means the database decision models are actually, they are successful in long run. These decisions are not very short term, because these decisions are made on the basis of patterns that are identified from the data.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So the pattern, once it gets developed and you capitalize on the pattern, then definitely it becomes I would say the probability that the pattern gets disturbed is very, very less,
Yes, sir. Yes,
very
sir.
less.
Yes, sir. I agree, sir.
Yeah. Any other question from anybody?
Sir, in the second last point, the
Hmm.
database decision provide a platform for future plans. It's
Mhm.
talk about the predictive kind of things.
Yes, absolutely. It talks about the predictive analytics because these 2 points are connected. Like what the question has been raised just before when I talk about sustainability, and I talked about the patterns that are being observed. So mathematics is all about observing the patterns and converting into mathematics formulas. Same as the statistics. That means observing the pattern and putting them into some statistical method. So once you identify the pattern in the particular data set, and once you identify the pattern tells you actually in which direction this particular model is going to move, in which particular direction this decision is going to go. So what happens is when you're trying to predict future and you already know that what pattern the past data is getting developed, so it becomes very, very smooth or easy to predict the future. The probability of failure, or not the probability of failure, I would say the probability of, I would say, okay, the concept here is that it is uncertainty which is in forecasting gets reduced once you are going to predict the future on the basis of data. So the uncertainty gets reduced. For instance, if I am trying to predict the stock price and I am trying to tell that a stock price is going to be rupees 585 tomorrow, let's say, if this decision is on the basis made on the basis of data, or this prediction is made on the basis of data, then probably I predicted 585 on the basis of data-based model. Perhaps the stock price will vary between 582 to 587. That means this uncertainty is going to be very limited. Now, if I'm going to predict this future stock price on very subjective idea of mine, where I don't have any data-driven approach, I think it is going to be 590 tomorrow. And somebody asked me that on what basis you're predicting this thing, on what basis you're making this future prediction. I say, okay, I don't know. I just made it on the basis of my instinct. Now, in that particular case, the uncertainty involved is very high. I'm not sure that stock price is going to 590 because there's no mathematics involved. It could be like 570 or probably 500. I'm not saying that database decision is going to be absolutely accurate. The future prediction is going to be absolutely accurate. But what it does, it reduces the amount of uncertainty involved substantially. So it is a trade-off between choosing bad and worse. So when there is a subjective decision, it could go worse. But if there's a statistics involved, it may stay till bad.
Okay, sir, got it. Yes.
Is there any other question on this slide? So I'll move forward.
Please, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, experience plays a very important role in decision making. So how mathematics is going to take place of experience?
Okay, so I will talk here about, when I talk about experience, then I would probably talk about here that experience in statistical analysis. Perhaps as an experienced campaigner, I would be applying the right kind of statistical tools. Are you getting the point? Experience plays a role. So if I'm practicing statistics and statistics-based decision making from past 18 or 20 years, probably I'm pretty much sure that what is the right fitment of statistical method. Yes, experience comes in play, but the experience, what experience you're talking about? Experience in terms of applicability of statistics, how old practitioner I am, right? When you talk about other kind of experience, that means probably I am trading this stock market from past 20 years, but I never practiced some statistics. And then I am trying to predict some stock price. Let me be very clear to you. Subconsciously, some statistics got developed in my mind. Are you getting the point?
Yes, sir.
So if I'm running a shop and on the basis of my experience, I say that tomorrow my sales would be roughly around 2000 rupees. I'm talking statistics. That's a subconscious development of statistics throughout my experience of business. So the experience which you are talking about, it is also an subconscious statistical developed brain cell which operates. Do you get me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Someone else?
Sir, one question,
Yeah.
sir, please. Sir, database decisions are more efficient. Sir, if we compare primary data and secondary data, so I think primary database decisions are more efficient.
It depends, sir. It depends. It's not necessary that every time the primary data decision based decisions are more efficient. At times, the primary data is not available at all. So we will be talking about that data thing, sir, for sure, because my next 1.5 hours is only about building a platform for statistical decision making.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Shall I move ahead?
Okay, sir.
Yes, sure, sir. Sure.
So now we are going to think a little about a short case. If I say ABC Corporation is encountering a problem of increase, so this is a typical human resource management problem, and many companies actually face this kind of problem. And if I talk about Indian, how big business houses, probably like Tata's. They have worked on this problem decades back, and Mahindra's probably you can think about. So if you look into the Tata, then the generations are working for Tata. The attrition is too low, and that is one of the cause. So in fact, if you hear some of the speeches of Ratan Tata, they say always employees first, and that's what they say, because they say that the employees build the organization. What I am trying to portray here is that you need to understand the intensity of the problem, and you need to understand that how different corporate have adopted certain kind of problem, statistical decision making to cure those particular problems, and they have grown. My idea of telling you these corporate stories is to make you understand that how these business houses have grown over a period of time. And when I talk about their growth, they say that statistical decision making and curing the minutiae of the problems, the minute of the problems of the organizations are actually the story behind their success, behind their growth. That means establishing a system on the basis of data driven decisions. So it is a very general problem, and ABC Corporation is encountering a problem of increased rate of iteration in past certain number of years, and it is proven in the research that high rate of iteration is not healthy for any organization. There is a need to identify the reason behind the increasing rate of iteration. Now there are two possibilities. If some organization is experiencing, there are a lot of employees are going out, there are new people who are joining in. So this is a complicated HR problem. Dr. Shruti can actually explain this problem in a wonderful way, that how this as a, I would say, human resource management person, a manager can easily understand that how complicated it become, that if an employee who is there with organization for certain amount of time, he gets trained, he gets comfortable with the environment, he starts contributing some value to the organization, and suddenly a new person comes in or replaces the particular person, then he starts taking little more time again to understand the organization structure. So what happens is, when more or less the rate of iteration is very high, new and new employees keep coming, and they spend a lot of time in understanding the culture of the organization, and moment they find themselves settled, they actually leave the organization. So in that case, the overall value that is added to organization, the overall growth of the organization gets impacted. Just a minute, give me a moment. So this is a simple problem which I am putting in front of you, and many of the organizations nowadays working in this particular direction. Not nowadays, probably a lot of organizations driven this model from Tata's, Mahindra's, and successful corporate of such kind. SDFC Bank is one of the banks, because ICICI and SDFC actually started together. But if you look into the SDFC Bank, the iteration is pretty less in comparison to ICICI Bank, and their business is more concrete, more grounded, more solid in nature. So what I am trying to tell you is that overall business has been impacted by the sustainability of the employees. Now, this is a business problem which can decide the future course of action for any particular organization. Now, this problem can be cured, or if this is the problem which has been faced by any particular organization, now there are decisions to be made. That means identifying. Now, this is exactly where you need to identify the research problem. Exhibit from this particular slide is to identify the research problem. The research problem is, what is the cause? The research problem is not, look, there are two things which I'm going to talk about here. If I talk about what is the research problem here is, research problem here is what is or what are. There could be a single cause, there could be multiple causes. What is or what are the reasons behind increasing rate of iteration, which was not already there because organization is experiencing it only from past 5 years. That is the research problem. Management dilemma here is that the iteration is increasing. So from management dilemma, there is a business research problem. That business research problem can be converted into multiple research questions. Those multiple research questions can be converted into different type of hypotheses. Then you collect the data and then you test those hypotheses. It is not necessary every time that you create the hypothesis. You can directly collect the data and test the research questions. And that's how this whole process of statistical decision making gets completed. So management dilemma is the iteration is going high. Then comes the research problem. Research problem is what is or what are the reasons. Then comes the research questions. Research questions could be one or multiple. Research questions could be that attrition because is due to high competition in the market. Attrition is due to some leave policies. Attrition is due to some dissatisfaction. Attrition is due to location. Attrition. So there could be possible research questions that can be identified. Again, the management dilemma can come at several phases. Now, again comes the management dilemma, whether this problem or these research questions can be solved by simply sitting with the boardroom, talking up to each other. 8 to 10 managers sit together, they discuss the problem, they come out with a solution. That is one way, which is called within the boardroom, right? And other way is a professional agency has been hired, or probably a research team has been organized in the organization. The manager HR actually collects the data and make the decision on the basis of this. This data is going to come from employees. This data is going to come from management. This data will be compared with the policies which were there 5 years before. And actually this comparative analysis can let the organization understand that what are the paradigm shifts that took place in past 5 years, which are impacting the rate of iteration. That's database decision. So many times the problems are very clearly defined. I'm not advocating that database decisions are always better. This is a matter of choice, but definitely there is a high probability that when you pick up a database decision, that is going to give you a crystal clear answer. There is no ambiguity. There is no scope of discussion on it because data speaks its own language, like I said before. Now, there could be possibilities that these decisions or simple management problems can be solved within the boardroom just by discussing, talking, and probably brainstorming. This can be done. But those problems probably have a very better, means perhaps the management has a very good or better understanding of those problems and it doesn't require any data collection or anything else. So I hope any question on this particular small case, let us a small idea of the problem where the statistical based decision making can be applied.
Sir, it means that analytics can play a very big role to take concrete decision in this case.
Absolutely, ma'am. The concrete decision as well as the clarity. There is no scope of ambiguity. Because if the data is there and data is speaking its own language, then ambiguity reduces almost to zero. I'll not say exactly equal to zero, but almost to zero. I am keeping this scope of doubt when I say almost zero, not equal to zero, because there could be, there could be unprofessional approach which is used in collecting the data. If the data is collected absolutely 100% correct way, I understand that thing. There is no 100% in statistics. But if the data more highly accurate methods of data collection, if are adopted, then this ambiguity further keeps on going down.
Yes, very true, sir. Yes.
Any other question by anybody? So this is a typical HR problem I have picked up. There could be problems related to operations. There could be problems related to marketing. There could be problems related to finance. There could be problems related to budget allocation. In our educational institution like us, there could be a problem like allocation of resources, the optimum allocation of resources, or most utilization of the time, and how to calculate the men per hour cost. So there are multiple dimensions in an organization in which the statistical decision making can be applied. In fact, all the fields, whatever you can think of. It could be as simple as optimizing the parking space. It could be as simple as optimizing the seating space. It could be as simple as, putting the coffee machines at the right place in the organization. Even these kind of smaller decisions can be statistics driven. Even putting up, like if I talk about the current time, putting up the hand sanitizers at the right place. So if the organizations which are highly research driven, every single decision has been looked into the possibility of making a database decision. At times, the decisions are not requiring any kind of data or database decision. Let me put you a very simple example through. So this is a very highly applied case. There was a high-rise tower, probably 40 floors or something, and the elevator which used to take people to 40th floor was it takes a lot of time to go to the 40th floor and come back. And there was a complaint register which was kept on the ground floor against the elevator, and people used to write the complaints. So there were a lot of complaints about that elevator is slow, and the lift is not fast enough. There's a lot of wastage of time which happens with the employees. So there were the complaints, and the whole register was pulled up with the complaints where it has been mentioned that something has to be done for the elevator. Now there could be two possibilities here. One possibility is either you ask some analyst to do some scope, and analyst collects the data. He actually sits there, observes how much delay is their elevator, which floor has the highest access, or from which floor the people actually mostly come up and down, and he starts making some suggestions, probably installing a new elevator, perhaps providing some facility, perhaps some kind of mechanism through which the elevator every now and then moves to a particular floor very quickly where the traffic is high. So he can come up with multiple ideas. It involves a lot of cost and a lot of other things. On the other hand, a non-managerial decision has been taken in that particular case. They have installed a 10 by 8 mirror next to the elevator on the ground floor. When people were, and they have provided a wonderful sofa right behind that particular mirror, right in front of that particular mirror, and beautified that particular area, made that particular area kind of selfie point. That was non-database decision. So when the people were waiting for the elevators, they were actually engaged by viewing themselves into the mirror, taking selfies, sitting on the sofa. Some magazines were kept, and a big display and TV was there, which has been installed in front of lift. So when people were waiting there, they actually were not able to keep the account of the time. Even if they were waiting for 5-6 minutes, probably somebody was watching TV, somebody was taking selfies by looking into the mirror, somebody was sitting on the sofa exploring the magazine. And you will be surprised that complaints in the register reduced by 90% or more than that. So motivated from this particular decision, what they have done is on certain floors, they install the mirrors, certain floors, they install the TVs. No statistics has been done, no research has been carried out. A simple solution worked out, depending on the experience. Some student was asking about how the experience plays a role. This is how the experience plays a role. Here, this is a non-statistical based decision which has been taken. So I'm not advocating that in every situation the statistical decision has to be made. I'm saying in some cases it is not needed. Now, how do you identify whether a statistical decision making is required or not? Look, statistical decision making involves a lot of cost. Cost in terms of resources, cost in terms of money, cost in terms of manpower and everything. You need to see benefit versus cost. That means if I'm spending 2 lakh rupees on a statistical research and the value it is adding to my solution is hardly of 1.5 lakh rupees, there is no point of going for a statistical decision making. So you have to see that how much benefit will be getting driven from this statistical research, and how much is the cost, and it is benefit versus cost. This is exactly what you need to analyze. At times, if the benefit which is provided by a statistical decision making is far less than its cost, then in that case there is no need to go for a statistical decision making. Is it clear? Means once you are skilled in that, then you can learn that particular art, and there is a systematic approach also to identify that thing. Is there any question on it? Okay, I assume there is no question. Shall I move ahead?
Yes, sir, I have a question.
Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
Sir, can you break down that 2 lakh rupees where we use it on?
That's important, Sumansh. You asked a wonderful question because there is a cost sheet which has been prepared in the analyst. When I talk about analyst team, there is a cost sheet which is prepared, which is called involved researchers cost, data collection cost, the salary cost, or probably the machine cost, this cost, that cost. So cost sheet creation of a cost sheet is a part of when you start learning the project management. So if you're an expert in preparing the cost sheet, you can write in the beginning, understand that what will be the cost of this particular research. That particular topic requires another 20 hours course separately. Okay, so much.
Okay, sir.
That can be done. That's a very easy. In fact, if you you look into the research consulting firms, they already propose that this is going to be the cost for this particular project. How do they analyze this cost? This cost sheet can be made once you are into this kind of business. That particular cost sheet can be made very, very easily, and the variation in that particular cost is hardly 2 to 3%, not more than that. Cost of research can be identified. Any other question anybody has in mind?
If suppose we do a lot of case study in the classroom, so we should follow the quantitative method rather than kind of qualitative method like subjective kind of things.
So ma'am, like I have discussed earlier, now in contemporary times, if you look into today's times, Twitter analytics and all other tools, there are a lot of tools which directly analyze the qualitative data. There is no need to convert them into quantitative data also. So like in human resource management, when you talk about attitude measurement, which I'll be discussing in a couple of slides later, in attitude measurement, the initial idea was to convert all those attitude measured variables into quantitative data, code them. But nowadays, the tools are there, AI and data analytics tools are there, where there is not even a need to code any qualitative data into quantitative. Immediately, the qualitative data can be analyzed.
Okay, so yeah.
Okay, let me go ahead. Of course, I talked about data. So I'll quickly skim through in next 15 minutes or probably half an hour about what the data is, what are the prime techniques or scientific techniques to get the data from the market, which is going to be analyzed. So data is what? What is data? You need to understand. Data can also be replaced by the word called information. Data can also be replaced by the word called information technically. Now, the information can be in two forms, qualitative or quantitative. If I come to know what is somebody's gender, it's a qualitative information or qualitative data. If I come to know what is somebody's age, that is a quantitative data. So information, so I'm using, on purpose, I'm using 2-3 words simultaneously. Information or data can be of two forms. It can be qualitative in nature, that means in attribute format, which cannot be measured. The presence or absence only can be felt. Or it can be quantitative in nature, which can definitely be measured. When I say quantitative, that means a number associated with a unit. That means if I speak a number 55, it doesn't make a sense at all. Moment I say 55 kilogram, I start observing it is weight of something or somebody. If I say 55 years, that means it's age of somebody or probably a time period which is spent for something. If I say 55 liters, then of course my mind starts functioning that, okay, this is the data on some fluid. So a number associated with a unit is a complete information which is required for statistics in quantitative format. When I say qualitative information or qualitative data, that may not have any unit associated with it. Putting students into 3 categories of excellent, good, and average doesn't have a unit associated to it. That's attributional difference. That is qualitative allotment which you are doing. Putting students or dividing students on the basis of their eye color or hair color is an attributional information, right? You probably are dividing them onto the basis of gray eyes, black eyes, and brown eyes. To 3 different categories has been created. Now this doesn't define how much black, or black within itself doesn't have 2-3 categories. So what I'm trying to say is that qualitative information doesn't have a defined measurement scale. Important. So what is data now? Data or information are a collection of any number of related observations. The important portion here is related observation. What do I mean by related observations? In statistics, it is said whatever data I'm collecting for analysis, if it is not related to each other in one sense or other, it is a wastage. Unrelated data or univariate data doesn't provide you any information. That means if I am just collecting the data on age of the employees, of my customers, then in that case, just collecting the data on age has to be mapped on something. My idea is probably to understand what is the average age of a buyer, what is the average age of my employees. On the basis of this average age, actually, I want to strategize something. That means it is supposed to be relatable to something. I'm not collecting the average age of customer just for knowing it. This is a wastage of effort. It should map somewhere. That means if average age of my customer coming to buy my product is 26 years, that means probably I need to look into other age categories. Why other age categories are not coming up? I need to start mapping it here and there. If average age of my employees is 49 years, then in that case I need to contemplate that what is happening. I am not having any young workforce at all. That means simply collecting the age, not mapping it to any of the decision problems, not having any related observation is not going to be suffice. It is a wastage of time. So data is more or less considered as a set of observation which are in relation to each other. A single number, a single observation cannot be called as a data. It can be called as a data point. Okay. Any question on it? Ashutosh, can you mute? Okay, I'll mute it. So this is what we call data. Or another thing you can say is that data is aggregation of facts. Means what? So what is the difference? I think this I have covered already in the class also. Aggregation of facts. That means I assume that I am receiving the factual information from the population. That means that's an assumption. That means I assume that no fake data has been provided to me. It is also known as data, the collection of data. Probably, you collect different type of data points. Probably you're collecting age of different people, and those particular collection of data set actually data points becomes a data set. So data point and individual information and the collection of the entire thing becomes a data set. Okay, this I have. This I think more or less everybody understand that what is internal, external, and what is primary and secondary data. So primary is once you collect right from the source. Secondary you collect it from some indirect source, probably a third party probably that is a secondary data. Any questions on this slide? If somebody has, you can ask me, because this thing for the professionals who are sitting here, I think this particular slide becomes very obvious for them. Anybody has a question, please ask it.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, you had discussed the mapping. If you're mapping certain data, so it makes a sense. So can we correlate this concept with the competency mapping?
Yes. What I am trying to tell here is let it be any particular thing which you are collecting from the population, any data which you are collecting for your research. That particular data alone doesn't suffice the logic of statistics. So if you are talking about competency mapping, you are trying to map the competency of the person with respect to what is very important. So what we do in competency mapping, can you just give me a glimpse?
Sir, what we do, we generally set certain skills, attributes, knowledge, and kind of attitudes, kind of certain parameters. So we generally search the candidate as per according to that standard.
Okay, that's competency mapping in recruitment and selection.
Yes.
So in that particular case, it is definitely a complete data set in which you are trying to observe different attributes of the data, and you're trying to map that what is the requirement of the job. A job is more of intellect driven. It doesn't require more of analytical ability. So probably you will hire a candidate which is high on intellect ability, and rest of the things doesn't matter. So in that case, it is definitely, yes, it is a data set because you are collecting the related observations.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So this is primary and secondary. I hope everybody understands it. Primary has these 5 prominent methods that again are very obvious to understand. You can do one-to-one interview, you can do indirect personal interview, and you can go for. Now these 2 methods, if you look into the thing, these 2 methods are the most applicable methods nowadays. Mail questionnaire method and information through schedule. And these two methods are most applicable methods these days because quick to reach, you can develop a questionnaire, the systematic information can be collected. In fact, in social sciences, these two methods are most applicable methods which provide you the systematic data. So five methods in a lot of other books, a lot of other websites, you will see a lot of other nomenclatures. You can see that one particular method has been broken down into several parts, like direct personal interview can be broken down into telephonic interviews, can be one-to-one personal interview, can be grouped and structured interviews, unstructured interviews. So there could be different websites, different books you can find. The methods are given with different names, but this list which I'm giving you is comprehensive in nature. That means every method which is explained in some other study material is a subdomain of one of these methods. This is a comprehensive list of primary data collection methods. Now I'm going to move into what is the secondary data actually and how exactly do you collect the secondary data. Just a minute, it is not moving the slide. I need to stop annotation. Yes, that's correct. Okay, that's the secondary data. You can collect the secondary data from published and unpublished sources. If you understand, that means the thesis which is in the universities but are not published anywhere, those particular sources are unpublished. The published sources are pretty much available on internet, web, or everywhere. So this is the secondary data. So you can go and see whether the primary or secondary data is to be collected.
So the primary data is more reliable.
Yes, there are merits and demerits associated with both kinds of data. So primary data definitely has a higher reliability. It can be used with a higher confidence.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
are lot of benefits associated with primary data, but there are constraints like time, money, and
Yes,
the
yes.
labor that is required for
Yes,
collection
sir.
of
Yes, sir.
data. That becomes really difficult.
Sir,
Yeah.
so secondary data is should be more reliable because there are many big agencies that are making big that are collecting data in a big manner and having a lot of researches. So it should be more trustable than primary data because primary data is majorly done by the people individually and they can collect a small amount of data.
Okay. Ashutosh, if you ask me that whether I like spicy food or mild food, if you want to know this thing about me, right? Whether I like mild or spicy food, there are two ways you can do that. Either you ask me straight away, or you go and ask,
Yes, sir.
or you probably will go and ask some of my friend, which is much accurate.
Sir, asking you.
Okay. Now let us suppose you want to understand the price of Tata Chemical stock price. Tata Chemical stock price. There are two ways you can do that. Either you go to NSC website or your friend comes and tells you which is more reliable.
The website.
Yourself are saying in both the cases primary is more reliable. Now, when you're talking about adequacy of the data, that means you are not confused about the reliability of the data. You are confused about the number. You are confused about the primary source might collect only 50, 60, 70 organization, while some big research agency may have already collected thousands of data. Isn't it? That is what the point is. But the point here is so we are talking about on two different tracks. Your question is related not related to reliability. Your question is related to adequacy or sufficiency or the amount of data which has been collected by the agencies. So if somehow you collect the data, so if I'm a research consulting firm and I have collected data on 1,000 people, whether people prefer Coke or Pepsi, very simple question. I collected data on 1,000 people. And when you go into the market, you manage to collect data only of 50 people. So there are two ways you can use the data. Either you trust your own data, which you talked to the people, you collected by yourself, that 50, or probably you just go on my website and actually download the data from there. The confidence for those 50 responses is far more higher in comparison to the responses which I have collected, because that data you were directly involved. That's the strength. So reliability of primary data always remains high.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Doesn't matter the number is smaller or larger. That's a different story altogether. Now, what you are talking about, it's about the authenticity of the data. If the Census Department of India is publishing a data, the population is 135 crores, that's the authenticity of the agency. You trust the agency and you actually capitalize on that trust and you say that, okay, they are speaking right. On the other hand, if some of your friend comes that I have counted the population, this is the population, you may doubt that he cannot cover the entire population by himself. So it's not the doubt on the reliability, it's the doubt on the adequacy, right? If an individual is given support and amount, then the individual can also collect the data in such an adequacy. Now the methods of mail questionnaire method, and in recent times, when I talk about, let us suppose I am a research firm. Ashutosh, now we are going to talk about a real-time problem. I want to know that whether people prefer Coke or Pepsi. I draft a simple question and I am a research consulting firm and I send this message through WhatsApp to 2,000 people and I collect the data. So the technology has changed. Now I don't have to go to people and ask. I might email all this particular questionnaire to everybody, send the WhatsApp, or probably post it on my social media, and people answer it and I get the data. Can an individual do that with more or less similar efficiency in today's world? Ashutosh, can you do that? If I can do that.
Yes, sir. By
Good.
using the technology.
Yes. So the gap has reduced. What you are saying might be true 20 years back or 10 years back. But in today's time, this doesn't have a high relevance at all. The adequacy. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's how we say with this. That's how we see that how the subjects progress over the period of time. Statistics has seen a major change. What was true 10 years back is not true right now. It's not relevant these days. Now I'm going to talk about one of the most important concept here. Generally in social sciences, generally is business decision makings. And when I talk about the fields like management, we come across the situation where every single time we have to measure some attitude, we have to measure some behavior. So I'm just going to skip this slide. This is a little introductory that what can be done in the measurement. I'm going to talk about these 4 scales now. Just a minute. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about what is attitude, and I'm going to talk about what are the scales and how I'll give you a little glimpse of what the different scales are with certain examples of it. And I'll cover it in the next 15 minutes, and next half an hour we'll be talking only about a data collection instrument called questionnaire, how to develop a questionnaire, what are the do's and don'ts of questionnaire. If I look into the scales of data measurement, everything has to be scaled, everything has to have a scale, everything has to have a measurement scale. Like length is measured in centimeters, meters, kilometers, whatever it is. Weight is measured in grams, kilograms, pounds, or whatever it is. Age is measured in years, months, seconds, whatever time. The scale is, so in age measurement, the scale is time. In length measurement, there is a table which you can remember: kilo, hecto, decameter, deci, millimeter, which has been taught in class 8th or 7th. Similarly, in weight measurement, there is another scale. So for every different aspect, for every different variable, for every different component in sciences, a scale is designed. That means for temperature, there is a scale which is designed in science. It could be degree Celsius, it could be degree Fahrenheit. For pressure, there is a scale of Pascal. For everything, gravity, there is a scale which is designed, which is meter per second square. So in sciences, whatever variable, whatever thing you want to study, there is a scale that has been designed. Is it clear? So similarly, in social sciences, there are 4 scales. Yes, barometer, somebody said. So barometer is an instrument. Dr. Saab, barometer is an instrument.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got it. Got it.
Gives
Yes.
the reading which is actually in Pascal or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Got it. Yes.
So what I am trying to tell here is, similarly in social sciences, there are 4 scales that has been defined to measure the data. 4 scales that has been designed to measure the data and how the variation of these scales actually matter. These scales are different in nature. So I have given you an idea of how the scientific scales are, but the same concept cannot be replicated into social science measurement scales. The understanding is a little different. The first idea is to understand what the scale is. Scale is to measure. Now, how these scales are defined is completely independent how the scientific scales are defined. These scales are defined into set and subset format actually. Okay, I think I stopped sharing my screen. I'll do it again. So these scales are defined in subset and set format, not like sciences. That means if a data is measured on a nominal scale and there is another data which is measured on ordinal scale, look at the circles. That means a data which is measured on ordinal scale will have all the properties of nominal and some additional properties. When some data is measured on interval scale, look at the circle or the domain or probably the set which I'm drawing. When I'm going to measure some data on interval scale, it will have all the properties of nominal, it will have all the properties of ordinal, and some additional properties. When I talk about ratio scale or some data that has been measured on a ratio scale, that may have all the properties of, that will in fact not may have all the properties of nominal, that will have all the properties of ordinal, that will have all the properties of interval and some additional properties. These additional properties makes you enabled to use high-end statistical techniques. Let us suppose, imagine there are 4 statistical techniques I can use on nominal data. When the data is measured on ordinal scale, I might use 4 plus some more additional techniques. Let us suppose X statistical techniques on this data. When it comes to interval level, I may be able to use 4 plus X plus Y. That means it is giving me freedom as it is moving up to use more and more statistical methods on the data. The data is measured on ratio scale. I might be able to use all statistical techniques. So I'll not write 4 or plus X or plus Y. Everything in statistics, whatever formula, whatever is there, I can use everything on ratio level data. That's how this progression of scale is directly related to statistics. On nominal, I might be able to use only descriptive stats, a little bit here and there. That's it. Some charts, graphs, bars, probably something like that. So ratio, proportion, that's it. Nothing more than that. On ordinal, I'll move a step further. I probably will be able to apply averages of first order, second order, or perhaps try to understand the difference. Probably I'll do a little more about variance and all that stuff. On interval, I can go with regression and probably different other things. And on ratio level of data, I can do whatever stats I want. I can go for chi-square, this square, that square, regression, covariance, variance, whatever statistical technique is there. I can develop a differential equation out of this particular thing. I can develop a complete whole lot of statistical integration differentiation model on it. That means amount of mathematics that is going to apply successfully is going to get bigger and bigger. The scope of mathematics that can be applied on the data becomes bigger, 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 and bigger. That's how scales are directly related to the statistical techniques. Now let's talk about nominal data. If I ask you a question, what is your gender? The answer is going to be either male or female. Apart from categorization, apart from just giving you an understanding that how many males and females are there, what is the ratio of the males and females, what is the proportion of males and females, can you get any other information? Can you get any other information here? Can somebody speak? Is there any other information? If I ask people a question, what is your gender? Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So can somebody tell me what is the difference? Like if I ask you a question, what is your gender? And you answer it male and female. And out of those 66 participants, only knowing that how many males and females are there, would I able to understand anything at all? Is there any other information that I can get? I cannot get any other information. Which group is more intelligent? I will not get any information. Which group is more,
So we can get the gender equality or the gender proportion ratio which are available in the class.
It's okay. This is what I'm saying. You and me are actually saying the same thing. That means apart from knowing their ratio, proportion, that how many in which category, apart from this, can I do any statistics or something? Or probably may I know that, can I measure any attitude? May I know that which group is more intelligent? May I know which group is having a higher, I would say, IQ? Can you just mute? Can I know something like which group is having a higher IQ? Can I know which group has a higher weight? Can I know which group has a higher average height? Can I know any attitude at all?
No, sir.
No, sir. That's called nominal level. That's called nominal level of measurement. That means despite of categorization, you actually do not get any other information at all. No information at all you get. So that is called a nominal level of data. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
when we
sir.
talk about ordinal level of data, the questions like, what is the question like? So if I talk about the age, what is your, a question that what is your education? And people start filling it. Somebody says high school, somebody writes intermediate, somebody writes actually, somebody can write, somebody has done graduation, somebody has done PhD, somebody has done so many other things. Now the concept here is, despite of categorizing the people into different age, different education categories, I am also in a position to understand who is highly qualified, who is less qualified. I can also make out something that which particular group has a higher IQ, which particular group has a lower IQ, or probably intelligence, probably which has a wider knowledge, which has a wider exposure. So despite of categorizing people into different education groups, I can also understand, I can also order them. That means who is better educated than other person. That is called ordinal level. So I can categorize as well as I can order them. Now, in this case, I might not be in a position to understand that what is the numerical difference between their different levels. So if I say some student is excellent, some student is good, and some student is average. So I have categorized the students into 3 categories. Despite of that, I also know, I can also order them that which students are excellent. I know that excellents have a better IQ in comparison to good, and good has a better IQ in comparison to average, but there is no numerical differentiation. Now in interval level, despite of ordering, numerical differentiation also comes in. Let us suppose I collect the data of the temperature from past 6 days of the cities. That's an interval level of data. That means despite of knowing that which day is hottest, or I can order the days on the basis of the temperature, that which day is hottest in past 10 days, which is less than that, less than that, less than that, and so on. I can arrange them on the basis of temperature in descending order, which day has the highest temperature, which has the lowest temperature. I can also understand the numerical difference between the 2 days temperature, which was not possible in ordinal level. Now the interval and ratio level has a very limited difference. How does it happen? Just a minute. Okay, it's not here. Okay, let's understand it this way. If I ask you, or I write a statement, the temperature is 0 degree today. or temperature is 0 degree, do you think the temperature is absent?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Actually, it is extremely cold. That's interval level. But if I say there is 0 rupees in your bank balance, do you think there is any money which is present in the bank balance?
No, sir.
No, sir. Not
That's
present.
ratio level. Try to understand the difference between two. In interval level, 0 doesn't mean the attribute is absent. In ratio level, 0 means the attribute is absent. Let's put it another example. This is a very popular scale which I'm going to draw right now. Look at this. If I give you a cup of coffee and I say rate the level of sugar, I'm repeating it. I've given you a cup of coffee and I'm asking you to rate the level of sugar, and I have given you this example, +1, +2, and I'm going to write +3 here. I'm going to put it -1, -2, and -3. I'm repeating the question. I've given you a cup of coffee. I say, okay, take a sip, rate the level of sugar. When will you tick on 0? It is negative.
Sir,
yeah.
you repeat, sir.
Rate the level of sugar. Rate the level of sugar in your coffee. I've given you a cup of coffee. I asked you to take a sip and told you, please rate the level of sugar.
Sir,
Scale is this. Yeah. When will you tick 0?
So
So when
when
the
the
sugar
coffee
is
is
of our
not-
liking.
Yeah. Go ahead. Both of you, one by one.
So when the sugar in the coffee is as per our liking, we will say it is a 0. But if it
As per you, absolutely perfect, right?
Yes, sir.
And what she's saying, can you repeat?
the same.
Same. That's it. This is an interval level scale. If the sugar is absolutely perfect, you will tick on 0. If the sugar is less, you might tick -1, -2, -3. If it is extremely sweet, you might start ticking a +1, +2, +3. That's an interval level. 0 here doesn't mean that sugar is absent. That's a scale which is an interval level scale. Are you getting the point? Now, if I say how many cars are sold in a day and somebody ticks on 0, then that becomes a ratio level data, because 0 means no cars are sold, 0 cars are sold. So it is very important, once you are making statistical decision making, it's very important to collect the data on right scale. Right scale is very, very important. If you do not collect the data on right scale, in that particular case, it becomes problematic. What do I mean by it? So if I am collecting the data of taste of sugar, then in that case, in that particular case, what we can say is that right type of scale is interval data. So you should use interval data. If I am collecting a data on age, what is age? Age is a ratio level, interval level, ordinal level, or nominal level. What kind of data age is? If I'm saying
Ordinal level.
Huh?
Ordinal level.
Okay. Anyone else? Age is a ratio level data. You can categorize people on the basis of age. You can also understand what is their order, who is older, who is not older. You can also find the numerical difference between the age. And if somebody's age is 0, does the age exist?
No, sir.
No, sir.
So all 4 properties are satisfied. It's a ratio level data. This is the biggest confusion among the researchers. Age is a ratio level data. Let's say height. Height is what level of data?
Is also same as age, so it
Sir.
will be 2.
Yeah, carry on. Good. Good, carry on. You're speaking right.
Yes, a ratio level data, no?
Yes,
as
sir,
compared to
ratio.
age.
It has all the properties from nominal to ratio. If I talk about weight, Again,
Same,
ratio
same.
level.
Again ratio.
Okay. So it's pretty important. And when I go to attribute measurement, then most of the attributes are actually ordinal level measurement. Most of the attributes, which are then converted into interval level of measurement. So most of the attributes, most of the scales give you the data which is ordinal or interval on level. We will talk about these few scales very quickly. Okay, let me stop the annotation. There it is. That's it. Okay, let me go ahead. Now that's okay. I think that's not the slide. This is exactly the slide which I wanted to see. Yeah. So if I look into the different type of scales, so if I talk about different type of scales, then you can see that scales of data can be actually divided into two parts: comparative and non-comparative scales. That means scales then can be used for comparison. There are the scales that can be used for non-comparison. So what do I mean by this is we'll be going to the scales one by one, and then we'll see how the comparative and non-comparative scales. These are well-defined scales which are available on internet, which are available in books, and you can straight away use them with a very high confidence.
So I have a question that there is a scale named graphic rating scale which are used in non-comparative scales. But sir, in a day, graph are used to compare many stocks and industries. So does it comes under non-comparative or
So what
cooperative?
I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the example of each of type, then it will be clear, right?
Yes, sir.
So let's go ahead.
So graphic rating scale day by day it increase or decrease. So that's why we are.
Yeah, I'm just going to come and show you an example of graphic rating, then you will be able to understand it. Don't worry. So let's start with them one by one. No, okay. This is the first type of scale, comparative scale, paired comparison scale, in which actually, look at the question. I will show a pair of brands. Please tell me which brand do you prefer from each pair. So I am trying to, this is a comparative scale. I'm trying to compare my brand with different brands. So probably I am LG, I'm trying to compare myself with Samsung, I'm trying to compare myself with Akai. So if somebody actually sees what is, if I come across LG and Samsung, which one I would prefer? If I come against LG and Akai, which one I would prefer? LG or here, which one I would prefer? So probably I have my own company, I have 10 different competitors of mine. I create my brands pair with each of them, and I see that if I try to map myself with one brand, then which one has been picked? That is very simple paired comparative scale. So this gives me a very high idea about, at the end of the day, it is going to give you a very clear idea about that which are the true competitors of mine. So if let's say LG has created three pairs, LG and Samsung, LG and probably here, and LG and Voltas, let's say, I'm not sure, let's say Voltas, three paired scales they made, and ultimately it comes that whenever it comes to LG and Samsung, people prefer Samsung. Whenever it comes to LG and Voltas, the higher percentage picks up LG. Whenever it comes with LG and hair, then a larger percentage picks up LG once again. So in that case, I can have a clear picture that my two competitor is Samsung, not rest of the two, because higher percentage of the people are picking me when compared with hair or Voltas in comparison to Samsung. So identifying the competitor analysis is one of the examples which I've used. Another way to use is whenever the draws are being taken out amongst the competitor players. In that case, probably I will put up one player with the rest of the players, and I try to see which player is more preferred to be sent to the league, or which team is more preferred by the people to be sent to the league comparatively. So these kind of questions, whenever you need to find your placement with respect to your competitors, this kind of scale is used, a paired comparison scale. Okay. Constant sum scale. So this is one of the examples which you can see. Below are the attributes that you might consider while buying four-wheeler. Please allocate a total of 100 points to them. More points, the more important the particular attribute is. And you can allocate 0 points if the attribute is not at all important. So if I'm going to buy a car, let's say, let me start filling up. The total should be 100. So I would say, okay, for me, service network is very important. I will allocate, let's say, 60 to it. And then I think, okay, for me, mileage, no, seating capacity is another important part. No, luggage space is another important part. I might allocate 20 here. And I say, okay, mileage is and seating capacity are equally important. So I have allocated them. For me, proximity of dealer is not important at all. So I've allocated 0. Total is 100. So this is what I have allocated. Probably some other person allocated in a different way. Then I can calculate their average score. And I can find it that which is the largest rated, heaviest rated attitude. So this is a statistical decision making point here. By using this scale, I can simply identify which is the most or which has the highest weightage attribute while buying a vehicle. So this is again a comparison scale. What it is comparing different attributes all together in one single go. Right? Then can somebody mute please? Okay, need to mute it. Fair. Now to move ahead, this is again a comparative scale, and I think this scale you guys actually use a lot. You can see this scale a lot where the things has to be ranked. You know, the ranking pattern can be different. It could be 1 can be for most important and 4 could be the least important. So you can write it 1, 2, 3, 4 or 4, 3, 2, 1. So this scale is seen and used a lot. You can actually observe this particular scale of rank order. That is again a comparison of scales because it's trying to see that you're just trying to compare the rank of the services or probably other things. Perhaps this could be the question, rank the most preferred e-commerce website. So that can also be done. Then comes Q-sort scaling. It is a time-taking scale used a lot. A comparison scale has been generated. And if you read the question, it is going to be absolutely clear to you. So in this particular case, there is a comparison amongst all brands. When you have a very big picture to cover, then Q-sort scaling is used. The back contains pictures of 90 magazines. So probably the cover page of 90 magazines have been put up in a bag. And you need to choose 10 magazines you prefer most. So look at this scale. Scale is right here. Q sorting scale is right here. Prefer most, like, neutral, dislike, prefer least. So if you look into this particular scale right here, it is going to let you understand that I'm going to pull out 10 magazines which I prefer most. I'll pull out 20 magazines which I like most. I'll pull out some magazines which I am not able to, 20 magazines, 30 magazines, which I am failing to make an opinion about. And I will again, pick up certain magazines which I dislike and which I prefer least. Now, if you look into the distribution of the scale, I'm sorry, I just need to get back. Wait just a minute. So if you look into the distribution of scale, it is simply as per this distribution. I think the people who have a research exposure can understand it better. So that is exactly what this scale is about. So you need to, so probably look how it facilitates. So let us suppose I am the one person who's picking up 10 magazine and I picked up India Today and I put it in one of the top 10s. Some other person comes and he puts up India Today in the like section. Some other person comes, he again puts India Today in the most preferred. Some other person comes on, he also picks up India Today in the most preferred. Someone comes and actually picks up India Today and puts up in neutral. That means he doesn't even know about the magazine. So what I'm trying to analyze from here, that out of total respondents, how many times the people have rated my magazine in top 10. So that gives me a clean bracket that my competition is whether it is within this top 10, whether it is actually within this liked 20 or disliked or prefer least. So I know my brand positioning in one go amongst all. 90 magazines is a big heap. While if you look into the first scale, the paired scale, that was much more sorted, but that cannot compare all the brands. You cannot give 90 pairs and ask people to prefer it. So Q sort scale is preferred when you need to know your brand positioning in all the people. This scale is practiced by the agencies, but where people have time, people are paid actually to exercise this scale. That means if you are doing this scaling, then you will probably take half an hour or 1 hour to make a decision. Then you will be paid for that particular day to give this kind of data. This is what researchers' cost is. Somebody was asking to break the 2 lakh rupees. So every time the responses cannot be unpaid. At time the responses have to be paid. If somebody is going to sort 90 magazines on his choice for you, you need to pay him for the day. You have to arrange him a lunch or something. Okay, then only you'll be able to collect the data. That's called data collection cost. Then comes this you must have seen a lot, a graphic rating scale. This is actually done by Wong Baker, pain rating scale. So you will be surprised to know there are painless injections for the kids, vaccines, painless injections. This scale was used initially to design that the normal vaccines give how much pain to the kids. So the kids do not understand 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So kids used to see that how much pain I am feeling and they used to take it. And on the basis of that, these painless injections are being used, designed for the vaccinations for children. So that is a graphic rating scale. You can see that this attribute has been converted into quantitative information. That means if a kid takes here, that means 6 hurts even more. So the scale, a numerical comparative scale has also been generated. This is the graphic rating. Now, some people were confused about graphing rating scale is about graphs. No, it is about these kind of figures. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
One of the most popular, one of the most used scale in the social sciences, which is called a Likert scale. And this Likert scale is can be developed on the basis of satisfaction, can be developed for agreement. And this is a 5-point scale. It can further go down to 7 points. So agreement scale goes like agree, disagree, and strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. Same way you can convert this scale into importance. That means highly important, important, neutral, not important, not important at all. If you're measuring the importance, if you're measuring the agreement, this scale is when you're measuring the satisfaction. You may convert this scale into proximity of buying something, and you can write this scale that I am highly likely to buy the particular thing, likely to buy it, neutral, not likely to buy it, not likely to buy it at all. So what Likert has said, Likert actually has said that psychologically a human attribute can be broken down into 5 different steps, or can be broken down into 5 different type of moods. Whereas the highest proximity, then there is a low proximity, then there is when the person is in the state of not making any decision, that means neutral. And there are 2 further stages where a person starts disliking a particular thing and he extremely dislikes it. So psychologically, he broke this person's, intention, behavior, or probably agreement, satisfaction, perseverance, importance. All these behavioral aspects, he said that they can be actually compartmentalized. They can be put into 5 different boxes. 2 before making the opinion, 2, towards positivity of the attribute, 2 towards negativity of the attribute, and right at the center stands a person who is not able to make a decision at all about the particular attribute which you are trying to measure. Further, in his further studies, is broke down into 7 aspects also, when there could be one intervention, very satisfied, unsatisfied, moderately unsatisfied, and neutral, satisfied, and moderately satisfied, and highly satisfied. Further, he broke down into 7. It's one of the most used scales in the industry of social sciences, and it is very successful. It gives you a lot of input on number of things. This is a semantic scale. If you look into the thing where you are comparing two antonyms, that means you are comparing two opposite attributes. This scale is used a lot. You can see it is organized and unorganized, cold and warm. Probably you are walking into a restaurant. Whether you find the restaurant organized, on the other side is extreme opposite, unorganized. If you want whether it was cold within the restaurant, whether it was warm enough, whether it was modernly designed, whether it was old fashioned. So if you look into the both ends of a semantic scale, these are actually opposites. Semantic scales are opposite to each other. Unreliable, reliable, whether the staff was reliable, unreliable, whether the process of ordering the food was simple or complex. So what I'm trying to say, whenever you are trying to measure two opposite directions of an attribute, in that particular case, this particular scale is used. Then comes the next. Oh, this is not semantic. Let me see what was the last one. Just a minute. I'll be sharing it again. This is not semantic. The last one was, it's a staple scale actually. So this is a staple scale. What is a staple scale? Staple scale is something like this when you need to actually have to measure things like abilities. So state how would you rate your supervisor abilities with respect to each of the characteristics mentioned below. That means if there is my boss, how do I rate my boss in adopting the modern technology? +3 means he is very smart in it. -3 means he is poor in it. When it comes to product innovation, +3 means highly innovative, -3 means poor. Interpersonal skills, -3 to +3. So this is called staple scale, staple chase. The semantic is written wrong, I'm sorry. So this simply means that whether from a particular adoption of technology, how positively or negatively answer it. Some people may say it is just like an interval scale, but you can see there is no 0 written in between. Because 0 doesn't make any sense here. So how good or bad you are in playing cricket doesn't have a 0. 0 means you don't know cricket. So you just if this scale it is not letting you stop at 0, it is pushing you, either you have to rate it +1, +2, +3 or negative. So these are certain scales. Now in next 10 minutes, I will be covering this particular thing, which is questionnaire design, do's and don'ts of questionnaire. And then I'll be giving you an hour break. I might not send you the questionnaire, e-questionnaire, but rather in last hour, I'll show you a questionnaire and the coding, because if I send you the questionnaire, receive the data, then coding it and actually developing all the thought will become a little clumsy. So I'll try to cover it up very quickly, that what the questionnaire design is about, how to draft a questionnaire, do's and don'ts of a questionnaire. Just a minute, hold on. So see, the questionnaire is an instrument which is developed, which is used a lot nowadays. There are two formats of questionnaire. One questionnaire you develop and you actually start sending it through emails, which is most popular method these days, through WhatsApp, developing the questionnaire on Google Form, OneDrive form, or through some paid platforms like SurveyMonkey or valued options, so valued opinions. And the other thing is you develop a questionnaire on a hard copy of paper and you distribute amongst the people, you collect the responses and get them back. So there are two techniques which are associated with it, but how do you develop the questionnaire? First is you have a question, investigating question. Then you prepare a preparatory analysis plan. That's an important, this is where most of the researchers actually commit mistake. You need to be sure that what kind of statistical tools and techniques I am going to apply and my research study is going to get completed. You need to identify right in the beginning. Perhaps regression is the statistical technique which I will be applying to get my results. Means regression is the only technique which I need to apply to get my results. So I will collect the data or design the questionnaire accordingly. My data must be like that so that I can apply regression. So this is surprisingly important, that statistical techniques which you wish to apply on your data should be identified right in the beginning, and it can be easily done. Once you're an expert in the subject, right, by studying hypothesis and data, hypothesis and research objective, you are clear that what are the statistical techniques I am going to use, and you collect your questions, you design your questions in accordance to the statistical techniques you want to apply. So you design that which kind of primary analysis you are going to apply, that is here. On the basis of that, you design some questions, you test individual questions with the people, whether the people are able to understand it, whether the people are able to understand it, whether the people are able to give right kind of input on those particular questions. Once you get those particular questions tested, people are understanding in them good way, then you correct them if they require some correction. If they do not require any correction, then you immediately go ahead and develop a set of questions. Once you develop the set of questions, then you develop the entire questionnaire. Then you test that questionnaire on certain number of peoples. If it requires some other correction, you do it. And then you finally push that questionnaire into the market for data collection. So that is the flow chart for data collection. And that's how the data collection has to be done. And I'm going to move ahead. Important. Do's and don'ts of a questionnaire. One thing is, keep the questionnaires as short as possible. That means more or less there's not supposed to be more than 20 questions in the questionnaire, which is an ideal situation. Ask the questions very short. So I will be explaining you this. I've already told you, keep the questions as simple as possible. This I will explain you through an example. Start with demographic question. So what I'm saying is that once you are starting the questionnaire, you try to start asking question right in the beginning. What is your age? What is your education? What is your, where do you live? Or probably what is your email? What is your phone number? The person starts getting comfortable with the questionnaire and he starts answering them in a comfortable way. I will explain this again through an example. This again I will use through an example. This again I will use through an example. This is exactly about, you test the questionnaire with some people right in the beginning before going for bigger audience. That means if you want to collect the data of 1,000 people, probably we'll test it on 30-40 people to understand whether the people are able to understand it clearly, whether people are facing difficulty in answering any question or something. And think about where you intend to use to collect the data when preparing the questionnaire. So what technique you are going to apply? Are you going to send through email? Are you going to take by hand and getting it filled by the people? The design of the questions are in such a way. Let me show you some example questions now. So just a minute. Okay, let me get rid of it. Fine, look at this. The first type of question is a multiple choice question. That means you have the select of medium where you have spotted us: newspaper advertisement, hoarding, radio advertisement, TV advertisement. So a person can actually take multiple options here. That is called a multiple choice type question. This is called a rank question, very easy to understand. You can rank from 1 to 4, but you have to clearly specify which means the highest, 4 to 1 or whatever. Rank questions are done in two ways. Either you rank all the items which are there in the question, or you just say, okay, rank top 3 which comes in your mind. So probably I just have to give rank 1 to 3. One person gave it to Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, rest of 2 are not even been ranked. Other person ranks Snapdeal 1, Myntra 2, Flipkart 3, rest of the 2 are not ranked at all. So this is one way. That means where you do not ask the people to rank all the questions, you just ask them to rank few. While other ways you rank all of them. This is a rating scale. I have already explained you. This is a poorly designed scale question. I am trying to measure satisfaction. The statement is I am satisfied with the vehicle I am using. I am trying to measure satisfaction. While in a scale I have written agree, strongly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. So I'm trying to use a wrong scale. I'm trying to measure satisfaction using agreement, which is not right. The options here should be extremely satisfied, satisfied, neutral, not satisfied at all. So what is the variable or attribute I'm trying to measure in the question should map with the scale which I'm using right at below it. Important. So it's a very poor scale example. Now look at this good and bad questions. If you look into the first question, it is highly ambiguous in nature. Do you eat lunch always? I don't know, means how to answer this. While the good way to ask this question is what is the frequency of or how many days in a week you eat the lunch. So the first question, the people might not be able to answer. So in pre-testing, this question may fail. People will not even understand the first question. Now these are again good or bad question. Look at this. If you are asking in same questionnaire two questions, the first question is positive and other is negative. This is not what is not expected. That means either all the questions are supposed to be positive or all the questions are supposed to be negative in nature. Like if I am satisfied with the foreign policies adopted by this government, then the second question should also be that I am satisfied with the defense policies of the government. And the person can actually rank their agreement. Again, this is a wrong scale. I'm measuring satisfaction and right at the bottom, there is an agreement which is written. Either both the questions are supposed to be negative. That means both the questions are supposed to be I am not, or both the questions are supposed to be in positive direction. That means in an instrument, do not mix the questions in positive and negative format. Either all questions are supposed to be positive or all questions are supposed to be negative. If you mix the questions with positive and negative approach, it might not give you a right data at all. Another example, complexity of the question should be avoided. Look at the question which has been asked. How satisfied are you with your community? And I have give several options. Very satisfied, quite satisfied, somewhat satisfied. Now I'm not able to understand between quite, somewhat and slightly where I need to take. So that is a confusing and complex question. While the same question you can ask this way, which is very, very easy. I have also allocated the numerical scores against it. So complexity of the question should be clearly reduced. There is a difference between leading and loaded question. Statements are leading and options are loaded. So if you look into this question is leading question in which I have already fed somebody's mind that IIMs are the best education institution of India. I have already fed or led the question by giving the person a thought that they are leading institutions. Now, once I have set the expectations of leading, the person's mind is going to be set up with a different level of expectation. That if it is the best, it has to deliver the best. This is the leading question. While loaded are options. If you see, this is a loaded question in which affects your decision making while voting in an election. If you're trying to vote in an election, whether channels like CNN affect your voting direction, this is a loaded question. I have loaded an option. Now the channels which are not like CNN actually out of the equation. I'm not even considering it. I have loaded the question towards one particular company which is called CNN. That's a loaded question. So generally the options are loaded and the statements are leading. So you should avoid if you are trying to collect an unbiased data. But at times the leading questions become necessary when the people do not have any idea about the question which is being asked. If the subject of study is very, very complicated, then at times the leading questions becomes the necessity. This is a double-barreled question, which is to be avoided once again. Are you dissatisfied with the current government defense and financial policies? I might be a person who is satisfied with the defense, but not the financial policies of the government. Then I don't know how to answer this question. Two things should not be asked in one question. Double-barreled questions should be avoided. Avoid making assumptions. Here I have already assumed that Tata has not paid dividends before. Right? So this assumption, researchers' assumption should not come in the question. In fact, the correct way to ask this question is, should Tata Chemicals start paying the dividends for their stakeholders? Rather than this, you should ask this question something like that. whether Tata Chemicals consider paying dividends. When I say should, that means I have started assuming it. I have already questioned it that before they were not paying it. So avoid making assumptions. This is an open-ended and closed-ended question of same kind. What is your idea of satisfaction from a car? Open-ended person can write an essay in this box. The same question can be converted into a closed-ended question. What is your idea of satisfaction for car? So you can keep on explaining the options, and person can tick so many options, as many as he wants to, or probably one option only. So this is how same question can be open-ended and closed-ended. Closed-ended questions are always preferred. But at times, when you think that you fail to generate exhaustive options, you try to keep the questions open-ended. Open-ended questions are very, very difficult to analyze also. Last part, how the demographics shall be listed. So again, you can say that age can be asked in two particular formats. That means it could be open-ended, it could be closed-ended. And the demographics play a very, very important role. So you need to be pretty much sure what kind of demographics are necessary for my research project. And you need to ask only those limited demographics. You should not keep on extending unnecessary demographics. The whole study is generally mapped on demographics, and then at that I'll show you while doing my analysis. Like some demographic questions, if you're asking a question on income, always try to pick up the current year's income tax slab. So that is it I wanted to talk about. In next 1 hour from 1 to 2, I'll be covering on Excel that how this data once come in, what kind of format and how it should be actually analyzed, or what kind of very basic simple decisions can be made. I'll be only talking about descriptive analytics, not more than that. I'll be talking about some bar charts and what kind of managerial decisions can be taken. Okay. So I'll be starting with a very short survey and how exactly the descriptive analytics can be performed. So here, if I see, there is some data which is collected through a questionnaire, and the questionnaire was mentioning that what is your age, and people have responded into some particular categories. So you can see the questions right here. So when the people were asked that what is your age, then they have been given with 4 options: 18 to 25 years, 25 to 35, 35 to 45, and 45 and above. This questionnaire is drafted to identify the level of satisfaction from the vehicle the people are using, a 4-wheeler probably. So how satisfied they are with their vehicle. This is exactly what was the objective in studying this whole thing. So for that, age is very important, because with respect to different ages, the level of satisfaction actually varies. So I have, since 18 years is the minimum age to get the driving license. So that's why, the category is actually 18 to 25 years, and 25 to 35 years, 35 to 45, and 45 and above. And this is the way the age is being coded in the questionnaire. That means the code is for 18 to 25 years is given 1, then for 25 to 35 years is 2, 3, and 4. Similarly, the next question was the next question for gender, and the code for that particular question actually in the questionnaire was given as 1 and 2. Similarly, the third particular question which was asked is the reason of living. That means where the particular person lives in the city. East, west, north, south, central were the 5 options given, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the 5 different codes that have been allotted to the reason. Because I just need to, because all these are attribute things, that means identifying the reason is a nominal data and all that. So and computer more or less understand the language of numbers better. So that's why the codes are allotted. Then the next question was on the education, that what is your level of education? And there were 4 options: 10th or less, 12th, or graduate. And again, these things have been given certain codes here. And then here comes the actual questions. That means what is your level of satisfaction from the look of your vehicle? So if you look into the particular thing, then this is question number 1. If you look into that, means look from the level of satisfaction from the look of your vehicle. Now, if I look into this particular question, Then there are 5 Likert scale options are given: extremely satisfied, satisfied, neutral, not satisfied, not satisfied at all. And I'll give them the code 54321 because that's an ordinal level of scale. Similarly, if I look into, then I have asked a question about how satisfied you the feel of the vehicle. And again, the coding system is absolutely same, 54321. And this is the code that has been allotted. Then if you look into the next particular question, what is the level of satisfaction from the fuel efficiency? Then again, the coding system has been given. And you can see this is the question right here. So I'm trying to measure the level of satisfaction at from different aspects of the vehicle uses. And these different aspects are about level of satisfaction from fuel efficiency, level of satisfaction in this question, let's say from engine performance. And then we can go with level of satisfaction from you could say interior. And probably there is a question which is identifying the level of satisfaction from service and handling of the vehicle. So what I'm trying to tell you is that there could be many other questions which are popping in your mind, and you are thinking that, okay, I need to measure the level of satisfaction from perhaps the performance on highways separately, or performance in traffic separately, or I want to also identify the level of satisfaction from the braking system, or probably cost of the service. So there are a lot of other satisfaction questions which are coming in your mind. You can keep on asking by doing an exploratory research. So I have just included few. And the person is actually, so these are the people like, I can just put in one more cell here. And this could be serial number of people, who have responded to the particular questionnaire. There are some good number of responses. So if I look into that, how many total people have participated, I've just selected the serial number, and here right at the bottom, you can see my mouse moving. This survey has been conducted on 450 people. I can see the count right here. So now I am going to do a little descriptive data. So I have data. Now I am saying what are the statistical decisions on the basis of data. That means I want to identify the areas where the satisfaction, where we need improvement in vehicle performance. So that is what my objective is in this data. So I'm going to tell you how the statistical decisions can be made. So if somebody says me, okay, we want to improve the satisfaction level from our vehicle, and how the customers could be more satisfied, what is the strategy we should plan? That is the managerial decision making problem which is there under study. Now what you need to do is just find me the solution, that how we can increase the level of satisfaction of customers from our vehicle. Now this question requires a lot of statistical input. What I'm trying to tell here is this answer to this particular question can be statistical or non-statistical. But statistics will let you understand that which are the areas of improvement which actually the company need to work on. And we can actually identify these particular areas of improvements by rigorous data analytics. A subjective decision without data is not going to work in this particular condition, because I'll not be able to identify that with respect to the vehicle which a customer is using, which aspect, which characteristic, which component of the vehicle, or which I would say measure of performance actually impacting his low satisfaction or high satisfaction. So what database decision here is going to do is it is going to break down the entire problem into several parts, and is going to hit the core of the problem rather than giving it a generic view, which is much more systematic, much more comprehensive, much more realistic, and a far better approach to go with. So I'll quickly name these columns. So this column I am naming as age. This column I am naming it as gender, so that I can call them as it is. I will write this column as reason, REGION. So I'll move a little quick and try to understand a managerial problem, how database, this is education, and this particular column is of income. This is level of satisfaction from the look. So I'll name them the question. So I'll write it Q_1, question 1. This is actually Q_2, question 2. Okay, just It is Q_2. The third question is actually Q_3. Then it is Q_4. Then it is going to be Q_5. That is going to be, let's say, Q_6. Then it is going to be seventh question, Q_7. And that's the last question, that is Q_8. So I have named them. Now I can get rid of this whole stuff easily, because then once I name the columns, the analysis becomes really quick and easy. So I can easily close all this stuff. I don't need this now. Okay, let me hide it now. Let's start understanding the data first of all. That means try to understand what are the descriptives, right? So this is where the descriptive analytics comes in picture. Now, first I want to understand my data, that how many people of each age group are there. So I will use, I'm using an Excel platform, and I will try to make you understand that it's not necessary that every time you use a very high-end software. It is rather very easy actually to use even Excel to produce wonderful charts, graphs, and descriptive analytics in no time at all. So we got 450 responses. I will simply start finding my COUNTIF function, which is every one of you uses very often. Range is age, of course. So age is the range. And fundamentally, this is the code I want to identify, that how many of out of 450 of which age category are there. So I can see that there is a high representation of the people between 25 to 35 years. Now I'm going to see that this total is 25. I'll identify what is the percentage frequency, and I think this formulation everybody is comfortable with, and I can see that what is the percentage there. So that gives me a clear hint that in my data set actually how many people of what particular age category are there. And what I can do is I'm going to I'm going to cover it up by letting you understand that how the simple things should be represented. So it's actually one way to see the age, and you can simply put up a pie chart here, and I can just change its name to age. And you can take this pie chart wherever you want, probably to a file, Word file or somewhere, to make it understand. So let me open a Word file meanwhile, and I'll share you at the end that what kind of report has been produced. So that Word file I'll share you at the end. So I have pasted this whole pie chart on a Word file somewhere, and I have understood, okay, I can explain this thing that which particular age group is it the highest representative of my data. Now the same way formulation, I can simply use this particular function right there. Just a minute, let me figure it out. No, it's not good. So same way you can first of all start making the count. So simple, this is simple data diagnostic, data understanding, trying to understand what exactly the level of data is, what kind of responses I'm getting. So same thing you can do for gender, same thing you can do for reason, same thing you can do for education, same thing you can do for so these are like there are 1, 2, 3, 4 demographics, 5 in fact. Income is one of them. Okay, I forgot to include income. So these demographics you can easily go ahead and use that. So like here, if I want to do that, so it is COUNTIF. So I can use my simple COUNTIF function. I've already given it a name, gender, and this is exactly the code here. And you can see it. And I want to calculate percentage of frequency. So in single click, you can simply go ahead and do that. Sorry. So that's, the gender, the reason. Same way you can use a simple function here. Once again, you have already given it a name called region, and you can simply go to code and you total it up, of course, to find the percentage frequency. So these are simple Excel functions, and people generally go and code the whole data into different softwares, which is handsome so. But you can simply use Excel. There is no need to hover around right in the beginning for different softwares. And the descriptive analytics can be efficiently performed on MS Excel. So that was also the idea, to let you understand that how comfortable platform Excel is in order to produce initial level reports rather than hopping around to this software, that software. So it's a very, very convenient and easy software to use. You can use pivot table tools. Here I'm using formulation. If you simply use pivot table tools, then in that case, there is even no need to, type a formula or something. You can simply drag and drop and actually get some kind of output, same kind of output, whichever you wanted to. So that is another quick way to do it. I prefer not to use pivot tables because they create a really large file size. So what happens if you're attaching your Word document with email or something, then the file size is very, very huge one. And second thing, the problem which I feel in pivot table is like they're not very dynamic in environment. That means every time there is a change in the data, you probably need to update the table or something like that, or refresh the sheet, and then it gets updated. Well, these formulas are pretty dynamic, so I prefer to go with these formulas, but it's just a matter of choice. Now, this is exactly what you can do. I have just shown you one pie chart, but you can do a lot. You can produce easily a column chart actually to understand the data. So this all is a graphical representation of data, not representation actually when you are trying to understand what the data is speaking. Now we are going to move little into descriptive analytics. So you can simply add the data labels and you can see exactly how many in which category are there. So you can see the least representation is coming from the South region in this data set, right? So that's now how database decisions are made. Look at this, very simple input. So I'm going to put it here. And if you think that the population has an equal distribution in the city, that means it is not there that South has a less dense population than any other area, then you can see that whatever response you are going to get, whatever output you are going to get, they will be little tilted towards the people of North. That means opinion of people of North. So you might like to segregate the data East, West, North, South, and then try to project what is going on. Now we need to see exactly how this thing works. So like level of satisfaction from the look. So there are two ways you can do that. One is let's say calculating the frequency. So look at this, how it is working. And now from here, I will let you understand that how, so it was question number 1 and that's the code. Okay, so 49 people said extremely satisfied, and that's how the distribution was. Now what I'm trying to do here is, that is one way, since the data is on scale, I will also calculate its mean score. So look at this, average of Q1. So you see that Q1, this is the average. Okay, sorry, this is the average, right? Now look at this. This exactly gives you a clear indication that how many people are extremely satisfied, how many in total people are neutral, not satisfied, not satisfied. So people are pretty much satisfied with the look of the vehicle, right? So I don't think it requires more of working. And if I look into 3.27, what is this 3.27? That is very, very important to understand. So if I look into my scale is this 5-point scale, right? So 3.327 actually is somewhere here. You can see that arrow. It is somewhere here. That means between neutral and satisfied on an average. So that gives you a clear indication that on a scale where my satisfaction is falling, 3.327, right? This is where the satisfaction is lying. Now, how this particular small decision can be made on the basis of this, look at this. Now I'm going to expand this whole thing on gender. So look at this. I have gender, and I'm going to copy this question, how satisfied you are from the look. Okay, so male and female. I'll put it. Okay, let me put it this way itself. And here I'm going to take average score. So which function I'm going to use? Average if. It asks for range, criteria, and average range. So I want to see it in gender. Criteria is 1, so I'm going to type it 1 here. And average, I want to find out Q1, question 1. Right? So look at this. Now I'm going to stretch it. Let me check the formula. Perfectly fine. Now look at this. This is where the managerial decision comes in picture. On the basis of data, I can see that when it comes to look, then males and females, if I look into the look, which particular group has a higher satisfaction from the look? Which particular males or females? Somebody listening?
Oh, yes, so female.
Female.
Female, so.
So that's a simple logical managerial database decision. That means females have a higher satisfaction from the look of the same car. Same thing I can do for reason, east, west, north, south. Let's see how I can do that. It's a very simple function. So I'm going to pick up the reasons from here. In fact, I'll do it here itself. That means I'm doing it for level of satisfaction from the look. Right here. I'll calculate their average score. So look at this. The function I used was average if. Now I'm going to use the range. It is reason. I am in reason. People living in East, and I want to find the average of first question. So look at this. It is coming out more or less same just because I generated the random responses. But if I try to plot this data, then look at this. People from south are the highest satisfied with the look of the vehicle, while people from central part of the city are least satisfied with the look of the vehicle. Now my business strategy is going to hover around on this particular data. I might make a different strategy for central, or I might need to look into the thing that how the people should be satisfied with the look. So I might want to contemplate further. I probably will go to the people with central and try to find out that what they're missing in the look, or east, west, north, while I might not tap the south area at all. So this is one simple input which business decision, data-based business decision making can tell it to you. Same thing you can do for education, you can do for age, right? Now this is I have done for question number 1. That means when I was talking about the look of the vehicle. When I talk about the feel of the vehicle, I have just changed the formula a bit. Look how drastically it has changed. Now I can make further analysis, and by plotting the simple data, I can actually identify that what is the level of satisfaction from the look. People coming from different region. So I can see that when it comes to look, people in West are highly satisfied, while the people from North were satisfied. It is not from the look now, it is actually from the feel, because it's question number 2. But when it comes to the feel of the vehicle, people were satisfied with the look, but not with the feel of the vehicle. So there are a lot of questions, other questions. Fuel efficiency. Let's do it for question number. It was question number 1, 2, and 3. Let's see how it varies. So I'm saying from fuel efficiency, how the data varies. So I'll not change it much. I'll change it here. It's Q3, right? I'll pull it down and I'll pull it up. Or I can do the same thing for gender. Measure gender, then criteria, this one, and then average ranges Q3. So look how it varies from gender. Let me get rid of this thing because you already know. Okay, this is also, I'll copy it here. See how it varies. So gender, I'm copying, and level of satisfaction from fuel efficiency. This is what I'm copying. I'm copying the gender too. And I'm going to actually form a chart and see which gender is more satisfied with the fuel efficiency.
Male.
Male. So this lets me understand the entire problem very, very deeply, that females, so there are different levels of dissatisfactions. I can't say that fuel efficiency, the people are more or less satisfied. No, I just need to look into the idea why males are more satisfied while females are not satisfied. Do females want a more efficient engine? Or so in that case, I might launch a different CNG, or I'll start pitching my female clients, not the same car, but I will launch a CNG vehicle and I'll start pitching a CNG vehicle to females so that they can also be satisfied. Now the business strategy here has changed completely. Now, rather than making a general assumption that what is to be done to increase the satisfaction from the fuel efficiency, I have narrowed it down and I have actually understood that what specific, gender specific decision has to be made so that an efficient decision can be made, rather than giving a general overview. Getting the point? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That is one part which you can do, and apart from that, other descriptive which you can and we should understand is, so I will do it on this question itself. So we will be calculating here frequency, we will be calculating as mean, and we will be calculating here variance also. Okay. So let's see what kind of information these three things actually communicate. So I'll use the same function right here. We'll pull it down. Only thing is I'm going to change it to question number 3. Right. And now I'm going to find average. Find variance or standard deviation, sample variance. Third question. So what I am seeing here is that doing a little bit of statistics is going to give me far better insights into the data. So look at this. The average satisfaction level is 3.01, which is just above 3, somewhere just here. And I got variance of 1.94. That shows that the people are highly thinking in multiple directions. It's not very consistent data. The things are not pretty much smooth. The people are not more or less thinking roundabout mean only. The people are thinking little here and there. So these are simple statistics which I start doing on the particular data set, and I start getting an opinion about that how these things are. Now we will try to understand that how the overall satisfaction or how the overall satisfaction can be mapped. So let's see what further statistics can do for me. Okay, let me compare the things. So I'll pick up all these questions. First of all, let me unhide. So I'll do it in a really quick way. Okay, so these are the questions right here. I'm going to take them to next sheet, let's say, and I'll be pasting some transpose here. Values in transpose. So these are the questions which I have. We'll zoom it a bit. So these are the levels of satisfaction. That's the questions for you. And then I'm going to get a mean score. Let's see how it works. So it is actually average of Q1, average of Q2, average of Q3. Okay, I missed it. Q3, average of fourth question, average of fifth question, average of sixth question, average of say seventh question, average of eighth question. Okay, there is no eighth question, I guess. No, it is there. So it will be Q underscore 8. That's it. Now look at this. If I plot this, and add data labels, change this mean to okay, change this mean to okay. Let me just modify it a bit. So I want to change this name. I'll keep it to levels of satisfaction. Now, what information does this thing communicates you, and how this statistics actually facilitates you in making a better decision? With what? What is the strength of the company from here? This is the best part that is happening for company. What is the strength of company? Where lies the highest satisfaction?
Also, service, level of satisfaction from service.
Service is the strength of the company, and what is the weakness where the vehicle is people are poorly satisfied?
Engine performance.
Safety satisfaction.
Safety.
So, safety.
Safety, sir.
Safety, sir.
Safety and engine performance are two areas where company need to be really concerned about it. So these are the two areas where somebody has to start looking into company's weakness and strengths. So that is very, very important insight. So that is one simple analysis which you can do. One simple analysis that you can do is this. Just give me a minute. Okay, so you can identify the weakness and strength of the company. That is one simple analysis which I'm talking about. Now, this is the difference between database decision and non-database decision. If I'm going to go for a non-database decision, in that if I am somebody saying me, okay, tell me what is the strength of the company, I might not be able to make such a specific statement which I can do right now. That is very, very important. This is the most important part, which exactly you need to think of, that where the database decisions actually can support. Similarly, right after that, if you, let's say this is the mean score which you have identified, you can also go for variance, which tells you that which data is more stable. I have told you the concept of standard deviation also, square variance of sample, and that is for Q1 first of all, is equal to variance of sample, which is actually for Q2, and is equal to variance of sample, which is exactly for Q3 now, is equal to variance of sample, which is of Q4 now, variance of sample, which is for Q5 now, variance of sample, which is for Q6 now, variance of sample, which is for Q7 now, variance of sample, which is for Q8 now. Okay, so let me just figure it out. Let me just plot something. So since okay, let me select this command, let me select this, let me plot a curve. So you can easily see that where the data is more stable. If I add the data label values, so you can see that the the 1.3 is the least variance. Again, in level of service satisfaction from the surveys, you can see that the people or the respondent are highly okay with the service. There is no much speculation in the thought process. While if it comes to the level of satisfaction from interior 2.1 and level of satisfaction from the feel of the vehicle, the variance is very, very high. So again, it gives you that thought process is very random when it comes to interior and satisfaction and feel. So company has to make some strategies on dealing with a high variation on these two questions. Now, this is exactly a simple analysis when you are doing overall. You can do it with respect to genders. You can do with respect to all the demographics which actually you feel. And further, when I talked about the compartmentalizations of statistical decisions, this is what do I mean? Compartmentalization of the decisions simply mean that you can compartmentalize the decisions with respect to the demographics under study. You can actually see whether some specific strategy has to be made for genders or different regions or some other things. So that was the whole idea. That was about giving you a glimpse of how this whole analysis actually works. Now, if you guys have any question, please do ask me. I'll be stopping it here. Dr. Shruti, over to you.
Yes, sir. Anybody has any kind of queries? No? Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful session. And we had learned a lot in terms of, especially in terms of quantitative, how we can use this technique to make the efficient decision, especially in business. So thank you, students, for joining the session. And we are coming months, we are coming with the very, insightful session. The second session will be delivered by Mr. Rajiv Saxena. The topic would be role of operation research in management decision making. And the third session will be mine. I will discuss on the payroll management, especially on employee provident fund and employer provident fund, as well as leave management. So the fourth one would be Dr. Kriti Gulati, brand mapping through Excel. And the fifth one, Ms. Neetu Kamra, data science and application in business transformation and practical guide. Sixth will be Neha Isar ma'am, understanding HR analytics using R. Seventh will be Mr. Shubham Agarwal, design thinking and its application. Eighth would be Ms. Soumya Singhal, financial models and valuation using Excel. And the ninth session will be delivered by Ms. Meghna, role of mental ability in the relationship between personality and job performance. So thank you so much, sir, for delivering such an insightful session. So I think every student had gained something from your session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thank you.